So, hopefully everyone can hear me and see me. YouTube Studio has completely changed since last time I was in it, so I'm a little bit late starting. Hi. How's the camera? How's the sound? Okay, awesome. I'm just finding my reference photo. I've only got one camera today, so hopefully if I put this on a bit of an angle, you can still see what I'm doing. So I started this the other day. It's one I started at a show quite a while ago, but it's always bugged me how it was looking. So I kind of, rather than just changing it, went over the whole thing and started again. But it's still going to be a Phoenix. It's just, I'm going to do true fire flames, and it's got a bit of background going on now. Got myself a bit of a reference photo. So I'm just going to start with like a base colour for it. So going with a yellowy colour. And I'm just going to get, I think, something to clamp the top of this down, with it being fabric. I think something just to pull it a bit tighter will work. So it's just to hold the edges of it a little bit tighter. Right. So I started off with like a white base, and now I'm just building some colour into it. No detail at this point, just the colour. Hello. Hopefully the compressor's not too loud. It's not very healthy, this one. I haven't got round to getting myself a new one yet, so it's a little noisy. So leather, despite being fabric, has quite a similar texture to plastic. So it doesn't soak in, which is good. It just has kind of like this bumpy texture. So for my true flames, which are going into this Phoenix, I'm going to use a white base, opaque, and then I'm going to use my aero colours, which are inks, over the top. I'm going to use yellow and red, and then mix yellow and red to make the orange. Hopefully this isn't too chaotic. I have not done a YouTube live in, I think, 6 months. And they were chaotic when I did them before, so. Hi everyone. Is it visible what I'm doing? I haven't got the overhead camera on today, so it's just going to have to be via this camera over here. So airbrushing is all about layers. The thinner the layers and the more you build them up, the more the picture kind of comes to life, or that's what I feel anyway. So we're only on about layer 4 here. I only started this yesterday. So super basic at the moment. All I'm trying to do is get like an outline going on with this Phoenix. You'd think, because the Phoenix isn't a real bird, that it'd be really easy to draw. You'd think, oh, do you know what? You can just do whatever you want. I actually find it really difficult because I'll use a reference picture of another type of bird, and then it just starts looking like another type of bird. So the reason I've redone this leather jacket so many times is because I just can't get the Phoenix to look how I want it to. So I've gone for kind of a really stylized one now. and it's going to be more about the true flames and the background and it reflecting in the water. So I'm hoping that the whole scene makes me like the picture a bit better. But I love mystical and I love all the fantasy stuff. But drawing it, I actually find quite difficult because I like to draw from a reference. So I'm just building up the shapes of the flames. And then I'm going to go over with my transparent inks to add some colour. And that'll be a layer. And then I'll go back in with shapes not in the same place and build that up again. And then I go back in with an orangey colour and just keep building up those layers. So there are some amazing artists out there which have done or do true fire. I'm definitely not one of them. It is always a challenge for me. I make it look like waves. So I can do water really well. But fire I always find really challenging. I'm not sure what everyone else finds, if they find it easy or not. And I've even watched like Mike Laval's stuff, and he's so good at explaining it, and then I try and give it a go, and it still looks like water. Screen. So we've got some kind of like highlights going on the top of the wing. I'm trying to make like a suggestion of feathers for the first layer. Try not to go too heavy. I'm also trying to suggest the shape of the body. I also want kind of the flames to be dropping off the tail as well. And I'm trying not to make it look like a chicken. So what I want is for this to look like a phoenix that's on fire. And what I'm hoping doesn't happen is it looks like a chicken that's drowned. So that's the challenge. I think I'm going to give it a bit of like a peacock style head with a little feather sticking up. And nice to have little flames coming up. I've given them 5 because I don't like when you've got even numbers. It's so noisy. Highlight the top of this. I'm using like really wavy strokes because I want it to look like flames. And then I'll just put some flames through the wings and appearing off the edge. Trying to be really wispy and really random. I think that's my biggest problem when I do flames, is I don't do them random. And I try and like follow some kind of pattern. And flames don't, they're always random. Maybe I should try one day just closing my eyes and painting them. See how it comes out. So as you can see, there's not a lot of detail. It is just basically blocking out areas which are going to be flames, giving them a harsh kind of highlight. So now, when I go in my dark colour, and because it's transparent, it'll pick it up. I'm going to start with dark. These inks are really, really pigmented, so I watered that down. It's probably about half. I'm not going to try and cover everything. So I'm also spraying over a seam, so I've got to be really conscious about the direction with the airbrush because it's not touching the surface and it's creating a mist. If I spray from like the left side, it can miss in that seam line, so I have to make sure that I'm kind of working all the way around it to get a nice even coverage. Otherwise, the more layers I put on, the more permanent this kind of line will become. So, right, we've got the first fire layer on there. So now what I'm going to do while that is drying is mix up my white opaque again. And then this will be another layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my fire, those wiggly strokes, back in, but I'm going to try and do them in different places to the last layer so that it starts building up this like 3D thing. So when you start to look through it, you see the background behind the other layers. I know that's the technique you're supposed to do, but I find this bit so difficult because I see the marks which are already on there and I just want to copy over the top of them. And it's training your mind to kind of just completely ignore what you've already put on the paper and draw something which kind of goes around it, goes through it, goes over it. I'll get the camera in a minute and I'll show you what I mean. So if you look like here, you can see I'd done these marks before and now I'm trying to go and completely ignore those ones that are already on there and just create a new kind of flame and fire. I kind of find it easy to sit further back and almost kind of like stare through the picture rather than at what I'm doing, so it's like almost looking into the distance, so I'm ignoring all the detail on it, and that's the only way I can stop myself going over the same lines I've already done. So all this is going to be freehand. Some of my lines I'm doing quite sharp and quite dark, and then others I'm just going a little bit further back and a little bit finer, a little bit softer, so it creates almost some shading to it as well. I think I'm going to try and keep the outline of the phoenix as quite highlighted, so it's going to be quite light colours. It's going to be the yellows and the oranges, and then kind of where the shadows would be, so kind of in the crease of the wing and on the shape of the body, that's going to be the dark colours, so the reds and the almost bluey purple colours. See, look, I nearly tried for that exact same line there. I had to stop myself halfway through. It is good to do something really challenging though. I do avoid fire quite a lot, especially like the true flame style, because I know it's not my strongest skill. So I thought, well, I'm painting stuff for this event and this show, why not try and do some stuff which I normally avoid as well. So some true fire, some true flames. I know some people use dyes or masking, and the French curves especially to help get some really sharp edges with the flames. Also not a fan of using stencils, not because of any other reason other than I don't like holding them or spraying, so I just kind of found it easier to just try and get my thin lines with the airbrush. So I'll do a thin line and then I'll move the airbrush further away and I'll blend it. And I think especially on fabric, it doesn't need the stencil or the curve to give it that edge. So let's get this beak. The beak isn't on fire, so I'm trying to get a nice edge to that. It's kind of got a very, very peacock shaped head. mainly because my reference picture has dropped off the computer, and the peacock is the only thing which is coming into my head to be able to paint without reference. So, putting a bit of detail in. Not really doing feathers, I'm just doing like suggestions of where feathers would be. And because the phoenix is all fire, it doesn't really need any feathers, it's got this fiery look instead. And just a couple of dashes to suggest where a feather might be if there was one. Anyone has any questions while I'm painting, just stick them in the chat. I do keep glancing across at it every now and again. And what do you guys think to my new studio? So, let's move around quickly. I've got the painting area, and then we've got kind of my storage area for things which are drying, things I'm going to paint. Got my paint station here. Yeah. Cool, it's a bit smaller than my last one, but it's kind of got everything I need, and it's nice to have little sections to put everything. So I've built this kind of, I've got my painter's desk, so this kind of tilts, you can have it at different angles and different heights. And I've built it into this cupboard so that everything can kind of be kept out of the way. So if I'm splattering anything or applying varnishes or finishes to anything or doing anything really messy, stuff in here can be kept out of the way, which is great. So I'm just giving some definition to the body, because otherwise it'll just be this round blob, and I don't want it to be that. So I'm kind of giving a definition to where the neck ends and the body starts, and suggestions of those feathers or flames, and then where the tail starts. I'm going to make those like longer. So even though the flames are still kind of like long feathery shape. Quick look. So this is the second layer, so you can see the first layer is still under there, and then the second layer I've built up hopefully in different places and a little bit more detail in, and this is going to be more of an orangey layer than the first red layer, just building the colours on top of each other. So I'm using a bit of red and a bit of yellow to make an orange. And I'm just covering the ends so that the air pressure goes backwards and bubbles through the cup and mixes it together. I think I'm going to put a little bit more yellow in. So we've got a bit of an orange colour going on there. And I'm now just going over all those white flame marks I made. Normally I'd be saying stuff like, well, your fire's normally hottest in the middle, so that's where certain colours are. Because that's not how I'm painting this phoenix, it's more stylized, that doesn't really matter. So I'm going for the middle, where the shadows would be, and the lighter colour on the edges. So I'm building it up as a picture, which is painted with flames, basically. Layer number 2. Kind of like this little flame on its own over here. So I might do a few more of those. I think that look pretty cool. Like little embers escaping. Might do some embers escaping off his little peacocky things. I want to get a bit more definition around the body. So I'm going to have to go back in with some darker colours there. So what I'm going to do next is another layer of flames, ignoring the red layer, ignoring this orange layer. New flames, these are going to be a lighter layer. And I'm also, as well, before I put my yellow on, going to go in with a reddish brown colour and just pick out some definition. So I'm mixing up like a reddy brown colour. Don't want it to be black. I think black would be too strong of a colour in with the flames. So a reddy purpley brown colour, I think, is the perfect kind of shadow. Kind of maroon colour. No way you can see that. Maroon. I call it maroon. Yeah, that works really well as a shadow. So I'm trying to kind of respect the shapes I already put in with the flames, but just darken off the edges. So I've got some definition to the body and some details in the wings. So I think before I do the other side, I'll just show you. So this side, I've gone in with this maroony brown colour. And you can see that's just adding in some shadows. I'm also using it to make some darker defined edged bits to the flames, that's what you call it, a more definitive edge. Whereas this side hasn't got it, and you can see it's looking a bit flatter. Whereas this, when I go back in with my highlights and then the yellowy colour, you'll get this really kind of different layer, almost 3D effect between the bright white and the yellow highlights to the shadow in the wing. Now my challenge is trying to keep this side even to the other side. Keep looking across and going, oh, no, I'm not using a reference. It's amazing how different it is to paint without a reference. I don't really need that one now. I'm using it. So used to using a reference. So we've got like a shadow layer in there now. I've kind of tried to go around this edge of the body to create a shadow, and under the wings I want to leave this top of the wing as like a proper highlight, because that's where the light would be catching it, and then this would be suppose like the bone, and then you've got the feathers, so you'd get this kind of natural dark edge. I've gone around the underneath of his chin and the top of his head, with some darker colour as well in the eye and underneath these feathers. This is all doing stuff just for the future, so that when I build up other colours, this stays darker, even though it gets built over. I put a bit of colour into the lake down here. Haven't put any detail in yet, I'm just building up colour. So yeah, we're what, 3-4 layers in now. It's starting to somewhat look like a phoenix. Still not my favourite thing, so I've not been convinced yet. So next layer, white layer. So flames are a constant swap between opaque white and your transparent colours. So you're going, build the framework, put a colour over the top, build a framework in a slightly different space, put the colour over the top, different colour. And then eventually all those layers start blending together and working with each other, and you get this kind of true fire. Looking picture. So it needs the layers and it needs those kind of framework and colours. Now we've got a few layers in, I'm trying to make these layers a little bit more detailed. So I'm trying to really think of how the flames are looking, giving them some kind of depth. So they're not just a line, they're kind of a shape which blends off into the other colours. Kind of thinking where the curves would be going if it was a fire. And again, still trying to completely ignore that layer underneath, which is the bit I struggle with the most. So on this one, I'm making sure that on this layer, that the edges of my flames have this nice little flick dagger point to them. So if any artists do pop on, especially if you're an airbrush artist, and you do choose flames, what do you think to them? Something you enjoy? Something you find easy? Because I really don't find them easy. Always interested and how other people do them so perfectly and making them look so kind of easy to achieve. And references, do you like using references? Or are you more kind of a just freestyle? So 2 challenges for me going on here is the painting without the reference, which I could pull one up. I could pull up a peacock and copy that and just make it into flames, but currently not going too badly. And then obviously the biggest challenge, which is the flames. Like constantly reminding myself, nope, don't follow the lines you've already made, do completely new ones. Just wispy bits. I do really like these kind of like embery bits coming off them. Oh, I think that could make it look so cool. I like that. So, these little embers. I think I'm going to do that all the way around. So all the way up this wing here, off the edges, off the tail as well. I think that makes it look a bit more in action. I'm not talking much, it's because I'm really concentrating on trying not to just redraw over what I've already done. It is so difficult. I find it like the most difficult thing to do. So if anyone has any tips for how to ignore the layer underneath and not copy it when you're doing fire, please let me know. I need some tips. So I'm just going over my lines and putting a few blends in so that this colour will blend into the colours beneath it a bit more, I think. I hope anyway. I'm trying to kind of like sit back a little bit and just observe what I've done with some of the creators. So let's look at this layer. You can see that was the layer before. This is a layer we're building up now. I've put a few more kind of these ember things going around. I really do like that. I think that's going to look pretty cool. tried to ignore the layer underneath and put this layer over the top. This is going to get like a yellow transparent colour over it. So then you still see this brown layer, the red layer, the orange layer underneath it. See it a little bit better with the tail. See how this layer underneath is still there, but I started building up over the top of it. So I've just got to do this wing now, a little bit more on the head, and then the yellow colour can go over the top. So my embers are just little dots, little dashes, and then every now and again just like a little curvy flame bit. That's how I'm doing those. Quite easy to do. Sometimes I look at the shapes I've done in the other layers. I'm like, I don't really want to cover that up, but I know for it to look like flames, you've got to keep adding layers. And sometimes that means that something really cool is covered up. And you don't really get the full effect anyway until it's kind of all finished and all those layers are on there. And you've got either a clear coat or what will be going over this, which is a bit more of a matte finished coat. But it still makes the colours then pop a bit more. So these layers aren't going to fully look their full potential until it's so it's completely finished. So it should start to take shape. Put my embers in, and do little escapey flames. And then I'll just go through and just blend a few of these like I did on the other side, just to give it a bit of connection to the layers below it. So this layer is looking like this. So now I'm going to put a yellow over this. So then we've got the brownie layer, the red layer, the orange layer, and now a yellow layer over the top to build it up. That's kind of all the colours into the fire. So then after that, it's just putting the detail in and making it look like a bird as well as fire. So you can see kind of, I keep, every time I've got something left in the airbrush, it goes on the water. So it's going to look like this phoenix rising up, and the background is basically water. And across here and across here is burnt forest. So it's the phoenix rising from the ashes, basically. Yeah. So, I will show you as well. For anyone who logged on, who's been following the other piece I did. So these are all going to the two shows. So the show in August, which is in Germany, and the show in September, which is KKBO, which is in the UK. I'm going to be taking all these new pieces across too. So we've got the leather waistcoat with the phoenix on, and we also have the mini fiberglass blanks, which the one I was painting up the other day, which there's a bit of a work in progress go up on socials, which is the vampire and the crow on the willow moon. That's had its first layer of clear coat on, so I will show you what that looks like now. So the colours really stand out now. I'll get the reflection to put it over here. So the gold leaf in her eyes, and obviously you've got the inks for all the colours. You've got gold leaf in the beads, moss, and gold leaf in the crow's eye. And I think I'm trying to find an angle where you can actually see the colours. Maybe there, but the crow's got like blues and purples and pinks all going through it. It's hard to tell, hard to see at the moment, but yeah, they are there. Need to sand this back a little bit, put another layer on. But yeah, that's that one finished. So that's one piece finished, and this is my second piece. Hoping to get through about 6 pieces. They're all going to be on different surfaces. So we've got 2 fiberglass blanks. I've got obviously the leather waistcoat, got a bike tank and a bike helmet, and some cups as well, which are all going to be painted up. So a lot of 3D stuff this year. So yeah, I've wanted for a while to do some new pieces because I've been kind of taking the same stuff around with me. It's nice to just paint up some new stuff. So yeah, challenge in the next 6 weeks, I think it is, before the first show, is to paint new pieces and get at least 1 out a week. So that'll be 6 new pieces. Right. So I think, how long have I been on for? Probably about an hour now. So I'm just going to do this last yellow layer and then call that a night for the live stream. And then I'll finish this off tomorrow and post a picture. So yeah, this is just a lemony colour going over the top. I'm going to put this around those few places, and then I'm going to go actually blend this in with a bit of red to make it like a very light orange, because I think that yellow is a bit too bold. I'm not loving that look. So I'm just going to make it a bit more of a very, very, very light orange rather than yellow. There we go. See how this looks. That's better. It's just the wrong tone. But I'll leave some of it there. So what I'm going to be doing tomorrow is just defining some of these colours a little bit more. I'm going to be going back in with shadows and going in with some highlights. I'm also going to be using some blue to then take off some of this overspray colour around the edges. So that the definition in the Phoenix is from the colours and the layers we've done, and you don't see any of this overspray. So that's going to get covered up. And then I'm going to be doing the background. So I want to start with the Phoenix rather than the background. So yeah, that's so much better than that first yellow I was using. The first yellow had quite a greeny tone to it, and it just was throwing the whole blend of colours out, whereas this one, which mixed a bit of a tiniest amount of red into, so it's not really orange, it's just a more orangey toned yellow, and that just sits so much better over those other layers. So yeah, I would say when you're doing true flames, the tone of the colours you're using does make quite an impact. So I'll give you one last show of this. So this is what we now, I wasn't counting layers, 3 layers of white, the base layer, so that's 4, the shadow layer 5, all the coloured layers 8, a couple of other kind of like random layers in there as well, so probably up to about 10 layers now. Probably take it up to about 20 layers in this phoenix, so I'll kind of go back over again, not fully the whole picture but just little sections. So for example, I want to make this bit round here, so under this wing and down the shape of the body, I want that to be darker, so that really stands out. Same on this side, much darker around here. I want under his chin to be much darker down to here. Some more definition in the tail, that looks a bit lost. The tops of the wings I want to be really bright, this kind of bar here. And then just pick out a bit of detail. So yeah, that is how it's looking now. I'd say probably about halfway through the layers, so that's my plans for tomorrow. And then I'm going to put a bit of a reflection in there. It's not going to be anywhere near detailed, it's just going to be colour and shape. And then some burnt out trees here, so the phoenix has rised up from the forest fire. So yeah, there we go. So I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Hoping to get the other camera set up next time. Probably a better microphone as well, because if I remember rightly, the microphone on the computer is not the greatest. And yeah, it'll be a new project because, like I said, I'm doing one a week. So next week's one will be a completely different project. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and see you next week.